in, you guys. It's day number 85 of my 365-day Jimmy Ice Bath Challenge. Every single day here in the year 2022, I've been getting into an ice bath full of so much coldness, so much glorious, chunky monkey, icy wicey, whatever other superlatives I can come up with. But that's what I've been doing every single day this year, is getting into an ice bath, seeing what it would be like to be. And today we have 32.1 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature of the water. And on purpose, I'm going into cold water every day and showing people what it's like to do what's called cold thermogenesis. It's also called deliberate cold exposure, ice bath therapy, cold therapy. There's so many terms that describe what I do getting into this ice bath, but all of it has tremendous benefits, which I've been talking about pretty much ad nauseum all year long. So today I want to tell you, because I've told you before about the brown fat and how getting in here activates brown fat. Brown fat's the good kind of fat, helps to warm you up. It's good for increasing your metabolism. Well, one of the side effects of that brown fat going up is something that happens to insulin levels. So I want to tell you about that here in just a moment. But for now, let's situate you so you can watch me freeze my tushy off. If you're brand new to this, you've never seen me get into the ice bath, I will be getting into there. It's 32.1 degrees Fahrenheit today. It's very windy here today too. You might hear that on the microphone on the iPhone, but I'll get in there. About the first 90 to 120 seconds, I am breathing, trying to just calm the brain down. Then once I calm down, I'll talk to you guys for a few minutes. I will dunk my head at the end of the 5 minutes under the water, and then come up out of the water, do a big scream, and then come talk to you guys on camera. So that's how this works. Let me put 5 minutes on the clock, and here we go. There's lots of ice in there, you guys. I mean, tons of ice. Oh my goodness. Yeah, lots. Okay, you guys, wow, very intense today, this cold. I think because it's windy out here, there's a little bit of like wind chill factor of the wind kind of blowing by the ice. And so I feel a little colder than normal. But I wanted to talk to you guys about this, what happens to insulin when you are in an ice bath. You may not realize this, but insulin sensitivity actually has been found in a study in 2015. There was a study that came out looking at type 2 diabetics, and they were trying to measure what metabolic changes were happening in these. I think there were 9 participants in the study. And they didn't even put them in that cold of temperature. It was about 14 to 15 degrees Celsius, which is somewhere around like 50, 60 degrees. So 50 to 60 degrees cold exposure for about 10 days in a row, and their insulin sensitivity improved by 43% just from cold exposure. That's pretty significant. And when you can improve insulin sensitivity in people with diabetes, you can actually reverse their type 2 diabetes. And so imagine taking someone who has type 2 diabetes with a A1C kind of out of control, putting them on like a low carb diet and cold therapy. You would lick that thing so fast and improve their insulin sensitivity. I'm going to read you the study here in a second, the abstract. When we go inside, I printed it out so you can hear about the study, but it's amazing all that we know about the metabolic impact of these ice baths and cold therapy. It makes you wonder why everyone isn't doing it. The researchers also connected the brown fat activation and the brown fat kind of doubling as a means by which that insulin sensitivity is taking place. We also know from other research that ketone production is also vastly improved when you get in an ice bath, as is glucose dropping. So I think they're all interrelated. You can say which one happens first, but it doesn't matter. I mean, they all happen. So that's the point of the research. All right, we're coming up to the end here. I got my hands out because they're very, very numb. So we're going to go under the water now. That is good. Oh, guys, you have not lived until you've gone into an ice bath and dunked your head below the water. Whew. Oh, what a rush. What a rush. Wow. Wow. And yes, I know I make that look so easy, so I don't mean to diminish the difficultness that is getting into very, very cold water. I still realize it's very difficult. But I'm also showing you things that you think are impossible or are too difficult are possible. I see some friends of mine on here, like Coach Breland. She'll tell you, it's hard to make changes in your diet. It's hard. But when you make them, you start accomplishing things that you never thought were possible. You become a believer and you start doing them. They're habits that you build that are great habits that will serve you well for the rest of your life. And that's what I'm doing with these ice baths. I can withstand 5 minutes in a 32-degree ice bath to know that it's going to give me such enormous benefits, like what I talked about in today's video. So here is the study. Here's the paper. I know you can't read that, but I'll read the title and tell you where it's from. It is from the journal. It came out in 2015. Was it Natural Medicine is the name of the journal. August 21st, 2015. The title of the paper, Short-Term Cold Acclimation Improves Insulin Sensitivity in Those Patients with Type 2 Diabetes. And so in the abstract, they talk about cold exposure being a potential therapy for people with diabetes. The way it does that is it increases the brown adipose tissue, both the mass of it, which means the amount, and the activity, meaning it gets activated by the cold. They did 10 days of cold acclimation of 14 to 15 degrees Celsius, which is right around like 50, 60 degrees. Increased peripheral insulin sensitivity by about 43% in the 8 type 2 diabetes subjects. Their basal skeletal muscle GLUT4 translocation markedly increased. It's another sign that insulin is doing what it's supposed to do. It did not affect the insulin signaling or the AMP-activated protein kinase, AMP-K activation, and it only had a minor increase in the brown adipose tissue glucose uptake. So this was separate from all of the other things that you would think would happen, that they got this increase in the insulin sensitivity. So pretty cool little study. And yes, I am nerding out on all the research about cold therapy because I am in the process of writing a book about cold therapy. So that's really, really exciting to kind of learn that there's actual science behind this. Because some people would see people like myself get into an ice bath and go, yeah, that looks weird. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense to me. There's actually really good science that supports deliberate cold exposure for the purposes of improving metabolism, improving various parts of your health. I just had a wonderful conversation this morning with a professor who actually is one of the founders of the Morozko Forge, the actual ice tank that I use. And he and I had a really nice conversation. He sent me a copy of it, and as soon as I can do some editing to it, I will get that up on YouTube and on all of my social media so you guys can watch it. But a really fascinating conversation about some of the mechanisms about why the body does what it does when you're in cold. All right, let's see who's here. Welcome. AZ Real is here. Metabolica is here. Marcus is here. Deborah, Gady, Safin, Avivant, Keto, Good Vibes. I like that name. Clemmy's here. Magnus, Kira, Carrie, Linda, Cape Digger, Dodge, Ad Infinitum, Heal, Nourish, Grow, Ashton, Sabrina, Smilerista, Wood is here. Keto, Carnivore Keto Fitness is here. Balo, Lachey, Vicky, Courtney, Foxy Roxy. Ad Infinitum says, I know you're the low carb man, but have you ever tried going whole food plant-based and seeing what results you will get with that? I know a plant-based diet does not work well for me. I've run some of the genetic markers of like what is the best diet. And every one of those kinds of tests that I've run shows that I thrive better on an animal foods-based diet that includes healthy fats. So, no, not interested in a plant-based diet, but thank you. I appreciate that. KM Smith is here. Shirley's here. Jennifer, Breland, Sheila, Halliday, Mo, Carnivore Snacks, Melissa, Josh, Snack Slacker, Parkman, Gillis, Melissa, and GMN. So thank you guys all for being here on day number 85. And if you missed it when I was in the ice bath, I just got done doing a 5-minute ice bath, 32.1 degrees Fahrenheit. And I talked about this idea that doing an ice bath can actually help to improve insulin sensitivity. I know a lot of people, they see it and they don't even think about metabolic connection to doing cold therapy. Look, I don't do this because it's fun. I don't do this for any other reason than I know what it's doing for my health. And so it's related to the brown fat activation and accumulation, this insulin sensitivity that starts to happen. So you have an increase in the brown fat. That revs up the metabolism. So we've already talked about this in previous Jimmy Ice Bath Challenge videos. You actually see a revving up of your metabolism. And when you rev up the metabolism, that's actually going to start shuttling glucose and shuttling energy partitioning all throughout the body so that then your body can work a little more properly. I think that's what we all of us that deal with obesity and other kind of chronic diseases related to your metabolism, that's all we want, is our bodies to start working in such a way that it works the way it's supposed to work. And so if you can get the body to start working the way it's supposed to work, then maybe you start losing weight. Maybe you start healing disease. Maybe you start seeing all these benefits start to happen. That's why I'm doing this. Remember Jimmy saying 0 degrees Celsius sounds like it's tougher, says Parkman. Yes, for all my international friends, 32 degrees Fahrenheit is 0 Celsius. So, and it does sound like it's tougher, but 0, 32, it's all cold. It's all very cold. So, yes. But Powell, thanks for being here today. We're going to do a quick peek in on the body temp. I've been seeing it drop pretty good post ice bath. Yeah. So we're down to 97.1. Before we got into the ice bath, it was about 99.3. So it's dropped over 2 degrees. So that's pretty typical. I have a preemptive warming up of my body. I get into the ice bath. It usually drops somewhere between 1 to 2 degrees. Today it was a full 2 degrees. It felt very cold in there today. I mean, like especially cold. To the point that my hands actually started hurting. It was so cold. So I lifted them up that last minute. Smilerisa, is it only prior to that your temperature gets to 99? Actually, great question. I did a post about this today, and I've been sharing sporadically on my stories, Smilerisa, of how I've been doing spot checks on my body temperature all throughout the day. It's not just right before. I actually popped a 100.3 degree Fahrenheit temperature at like 10 o'clock in the morning. And I actually did this morning super early today. I thought, okay, let me just see how it's going. 7 o'clock in the morning. 7 o'clock in the morning, I decided let's take the temperature. And I'd been up for a little bit at that point. And then I didn't really feel bad. I didn't really have any reason to test it other than, I wonder what my body temperature's doing. And it was 100.3 degrees Fahrenheit at 7 o'clock this morning. My ice bath isn't until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I think it happens all day long. I think it's one of those things. And I talked about this in that interview with the guy from Morosco Forge. Again, I'll be posting that very soon. But he said, I wonder if you're willing yourself to get warm. If you're thinking so much, maybe even on a subconscious level of, hey, I need to be prepared to be warm. So psychosomatically, you're thinking be warmer, and thus your body responds by being warmer. I don't know. It's an intriguing kind of concept. He said he only knows one other person that's ever been able to like think their way warm preemptively before an ice bath. But yeah, it's not just before. It's literally all the time, all day long. And it's not a constant that hot. I have a little peak of hot, but then like an hour later, it'll be down 2 degrees from that. And then back up to like 99.7, then down to 97.1. It has this little fluctuation. It's almost like the body is having little spurts, little waves, kind of a circadian rhythm, so to speak. And this is just my theory, that the brown fat is kind of getting activated, doing its thing, warming you up, but then going, okay, there's nothing to warm. Let's go back down again. And it goes way down again. And then when it gets down that cold, it's like, all right, let's warm him back up and go back up again. It's really fascinating. One of these days, and this is difficult, continuing to stick it in my mouth, so much. I'm looking when Oura Ring gets their technology, because they can measure body temperature with the Oura Ring. And this is one of the things that they were supposed to add to the new version of the Oura. When they add body temperature all day long, the way they pitched this ring to us was, hey, it will predict if you're getting sick, because if your body temp goes up like significantly, so it will alert you, but then it'll have a graph of your temperature. So I can't wait till they can get that on the app so I can actually quantify what's happening. I don't see that this will be going away anytime soon, so I hope Oura gets to that sooner than later. In the meantime, stick it in my mouth. It's kind of like when they came out with the CGMs. And then that way you didn't have to prick your finger all the time to do your blood sugar. This will be kind of a CGM for my body temp. Clemmy says, how long did the participants in the study stay in the ice bath? That's a great question. They reported 10 days of cold acclimation. They didn't really say, at least in the abstract of this study, which was all I had access to, but they said 10 days of cold acclimation at 14 to 15 degrees Celsius. So I don't know that they did an ice bath. Previous studies that I've read from and looked into, cold acclimation just meant they were in a cold environment. So maybe it was a 60-degree room that they were in. But I don't know is the answer. But if you get into any kind of deliberate cold exposure, I would think the same principle would apply. So these are people who already have insulin resistance vis-a-vis their type 2 diabetes. So the fact that they saw a sensitivity improvement by about 43%, that's pretty major. And that's just 10 days. What would happen, because I've been at this now 85 days, what would happen if they continued them on that cold acclimation? What would happen if they tested for brown fat and its activity level, its growth? Johnny bar the door. I just know from all the ways that I feel right now, something great has happened from doing all these ice baths. And again, I'm doing them 365 days this year. So I got plenty of time to see whatever other effects are going to happen for me. Thomas is here. Parkman says, do the actual benefits align with what you expected they would be? Look, I went into this, great question, Parkman. I went into this with no expectations. I went into this like any good citizen scientist should. Show me what happens. I just want to see what happens. Now, I had suppositions about what I hoped would happen in terms of fat loss, what I hoped would happen in terms of how I would feel, what I hoped would happen in terms of cold acclimation and what that would be like. All the things that have actually happened, I never would have believed had I not gone through it myself. So in answering your question, it's far exceeded any imaginative result that I thought could happen. The whole body warming itself up, that was wicked. The way that I just feel so good pretty much all the time. I didn't expect that. I didn't expect to feel this good. I didn't expect that I'd be able to tolerate cold as well. When I did that about a month ago, I did that standing out in 24-degree temperature air for 30 minutes. And I didn't shiver once. And then losing the shiver response, I never would have believed you would stop shivering at some point because your sensitivity to the cold would be so good that you could handle it. Your acclimation would be so good that you could handle it. I didn't believe that would happen. Smilerista, why does it do that? Why does what do what? Sorry, I know you were answering in real time and what I was talking about. Ask that question again, pretending like I don't know what you're talking about, because I don't. Carolyn is here. Nicole is here. Della, Rita, Kristen. Parkman says, I would like to see you run a PET scan to measure brown fat changes as you do this over time. Yeah, I do want to. I was just thinking of that today, Parkman, that I would like to go get at least what my current brown fat is, so I can see what level it's at. I should have done that at baseline. But look, I didn't want to do a whole lot of tests. I've done so many N=1 tests over the years, and I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on all this testing. I don't make that kind of money. So I can't just willy-nilly test all kinds of things. Plus, it's not as easy to run a PET scan, like you're saying here, to see the brown fat. That's not an easy test to just go run, get, and done with it. So that's a little bit of the challenge here. But there are lots of tests I would love to do as this continues on. Melissa says, we talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's very interesting about the mind-body connection. Yeah, you can literally will yourself to make yourself warm. And that's what this guy, Dr. Thomas Seeger, was talking to me about earlier, that he only knows one other person that has a preemptive warming up. And yeah, is it a psychosomatic response? What is it? And I was telling him, it's not even conscious. I'm not sitting here going, warm, fire, heat. I'm not like deliberately trying to make my body warm with my mind, which sounds kind of voodoo. But we were kind of supposing, what would happen if I did? What would happen if I went on Instagram Live and I've got 98.3, and then I just sit here and think warm thoughts, think hot while I'm on the camera? Could I make my temperature go higher just from thinking warmer? I know that's a little out there for some people, but that's what he brought up. See, we're seeing the drop pretty good, 97.7 now. So, and I'm not shivering. I'm not cold. Not in the least. Did they also have an emotional sensitivity improvement? I don't know. I can tell you I have, doing all these ice baths. Definitely great for emotional health. Victor is here. Gabby is here. Jim. Victor says, greetings from Salem, Oregon. Hello, buddy. Smilerista, your temp go up. All right. Let me scroll back so we can, why does your temp go up? Well, I think that's a great question, Smilerista. The body knows. The body knows, because I've been doing this every single day, all throughout the year, 85 days in now. Most days it's at 5 o'clock. A few times I've done it earlier in the day, but for the most part, I've done 5 o'clock. And I think that exposure to the cold over time, like we were talking about with this study I was reading from, over time, that acclimation activates the brown fat. Now remember, I've talked about this before. The brown fat is kind of in the upper neck and shoulder area and kind of the back side of your back. And so when you get cold, you activate that and it starts to grow. It starts to recruit some of the white fat, turn it into beige fat, which eventually turns to brown fat. That's how you grow your brown fat. And brown fat is what causes this insulin sensitivity to improve, like we were talking about. And so the reason why, possibly, there's no science on the temperature going up thing, but I think the reason why is because there's been a radical activation and increasing of the brown fat. That's why I'm seeing these temperature changes. And it's wicked too, because sometimes I'm in like fever territory. That one I popped at 7 a.m. today, that was 100.3 degrees Fahrenheit. I could actually slightly feel my eyes burn. When you get a fever, you kind of feel kind of flush in the head and you get your eyes burn. Well, I didn't have flush in the head. I didn't really feel hot, but I could feel my eyes just ever so slightly burning. And I thought, what's my body temp doing? And that's when I tested and saw 100.3 degrees Fahrenheit. I was like, whoa. And I'm not sick. I've been getting these readings pretty consistently now for several weeks, getting these higher elevations of body temp. And will there at some point be a point where it stops going up? I don't know. I would think at some point the body would become so adapted that eventually it will normalize, my body temp will normalize and kind of stabilize. Right now it's this periods of high, goes back down low. Periods of high, it's kind of this little wave that happens throughout the day. And again, I want to be able to measure it all throughout the day just to see if there's peaks, if there's any patterns to it. So this is going to get old sticking in my mouth every 15 minutes, but I'm going to, maybe for the sake of science, go throughout the day and just do test readings every 15 minutes, every hour on the hour that I'm awake. Of course, I have to avoid the times that I'm drinking like water. So if I take a sip of water, that's going to mess up the reading. So I have to figure out a way to do that, to get around the eating and drinking times so it doesn't mess with the data. Monica's here. Wookie is here. Kira says, are there any studies that show countries with cold have people with more or less brown fat, like Sweden. Yeah, I haven't seen the actual studies, Kira, but I have actually heard anecdotally from podcasts and different resources that I've been listening to that yes, in those colder climates, they do have better insulin sensitivity, better brown fat activation and production. So yeah, I will be digging deeper to kind of look at some of those colder climates. I think, the Inuit Eskimos get a lot of credit for their animal foods-based diet, and I do think their carnivore diet is a big contributing factor as to why they've been healthy. But I also wonder how much of the cold is impacting their health as well. Is that a part of the robustness of the health that they see? That it's not just the animal foods that they consume in their diet, but also the cold exposure. I can't help but wonder. I'll be digging deeper into that here in the coming months. 2016 is here. Recan is here. Parkman said, would the person's body fat percentage also equate to how well they tolerate the ice bath? I can't imagine why it wouldn't have a positive impact. I guess, yeah, because there is a warming effect from having excess adipose tissue, which I do. And so that does probably help me somewhat. Would I be able to tolerate the 32 degrees as well as I do if I had less adipose tissue? Probably, but I don't know. Is it the adipose tissue keeping me warm? Is it the brown fat that's warming me up? There's a lot of moving parts to this that science has just not vetted out, which is part of the reason why I'm talking about this stuff and why I decided to do this challenge this year. But that's a great question. You would think that having the more, because we always kind of had this colloquialism in our society of, well, they can tolerate cold because look, they're bigger and they got lots of padding, lots of, that kind of thing. I don't know if there's any veracity to that scientifically. But I know a lot of people do cold therapy who are thin and they do it just fine. So I don't know is the answer. Lisa's here. I know when I was really skinny, I was cold all the time. Well, you can be cold all the time for a lot of reasons. Thyroid issues, under eating will cause you to be cold. Plus, people that say they're cold all the time, the best cure for being cold all the time is to deliberately make yourself cold. Here's something else that just kind of was a revelation today. So with my body warming up the way that it has, and being warmer as a result of being in the ice bath and having this brown fat accumulation start to grow ostensibly, I wonder, because I have never been very well acclimated to heat. I'm going to be really interested to see all these ice baths making me warmer. Is it actually going to make me more tolerant of the hot weather that's coming this summer? I've never enjoyed the hot weather. Hot weather drains me. I just don't do well when it's really hot. What's it going to be like now that I've done, by the time that hot weather gets here in a couple more months, what's it going to be like to be out in the warm now that my body kind of is warming itself from the ice baths? I don't know. That'll be something to definitely keep an eye on. Sugar Mountain's here. JF is here. Kira says PET scans and MRIs are very expensive. Is there a blood test to measure the amount of mitochondria? Because brown fat, I thought, increases it. Looking for a cheaper option. I don't know, to be honest, Kira. I would think there are tests that you could run that would be proxies for the brown fat, like you're saying. I don't know about a blood test for mitochondria detection, but anybody smart out there that knows, if you're in the know and do those kinds of tests. I've got friends, my friend Kelly actually probably knows the answer to that question because she does these kinds of tests all the time, Kira. So I will reach out to Kelly and see if she knows. Carol Ann is here. Kat is here. Parkman says body temp regulated by your thyroid, so maybe the cold increases T4 to T3 conversion. Maybe. I know it plays a huge role in temperature regulation in the body, that's for sure. Urban Knight is here, says, keep up the hard work. Thank you, my friend. Have you done a DEXA scan? Kira said, not for this challenge, but yes, in the past, I have done DEXA scans. And I would think the DEXA with the ice bath would show changes, obviously, in body fat that has happened. I wonder, though, because one of the things that an ice bath does is it mimics the effects of exercise. I wonder, could you see improvements in your muscle mass, your lean mass, on a DEXA scan just from doing ice baths? Look, I wish I had access. I've got to drive 2.5 hours to get to the closest place that has a DEXA scan. If I had unlimited funds and unlimited time to do these things, I would have definitely done DEXA scan. I would have done the PET scan. I would have done all these things. I don't. I'm just doing this as kind of a poor man's biohacker, just to see the changes that happen. So, but yeah, I would think not only would you see fat loss from doing this, but you would have to see some kind of muscle change, especially those people that get that really vigorous shiver response when they first start. And there's a bunch of people that do. It would be a fascinating kind of thing to see in real time. Unfortunately, it's not very economical. May is here. I'm a keto girl is here. Parkman says, great job. You're tough going through this. Well, it's been very pleasurable, actually. I was dreading it at the very beginning, but I knew I needed something challenging for myself this year. And this was just the ticket, just the thing I needed. Bulletproof says, go Jimmy. Kira says, you're going to a conference in Texas, get a DEXA to measure muscle mass. Yeah. I'm going to 2 conferences actually in Austin, Texas. I'm going to Paleo FX at the end of April. And I'm potentially speaking. I submitted a talk and I haven't heard back yet. About trauma and its impact physically on the body. That was the talk that I submitted. And then I'm going to KetoCon in July. I was not invited to speak at that one, but I will be attending that one. All right, guys, here on day 85. Thanks for hanging out with me just a few minutes. Hope you have enjoyed today's video. This was kind of a fun one to know that insulin sensitivity improves just from exposing your body to cold. Will that be available online? Parkman wants to know. I'm assuming you mean PaleoFX and KetoCon. I'm sure they'll have online options. PaleoFX.com and then KetoCon.org are the 2 websites if you want to look them up, those conferences. Hello, 128. Thanks for being here today. So as always, if you're watching this on the replay, on either YouTube, Facebook, or even here on Instagram, go follow me over on Instagram, Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. You can see all of the videos live when I go live at 5 p.m. Eastern time every single day. Parkman says, I want to see you if you speak. Yeah, trust me, if I'm talking, I will try to get it on video so you guys can see that. Yeah, so tomorrow I will be doing a walk and talk, and I want to talk about a topic that I think is so prescient in the world right now. How do you have conversations with people that you disagree with? How do you do that respectfully? I know that's a lost art in this day and age where people just say, well, if you believe differently than me, you're my mortal enemy. And I'm like, when did that become a thing? So we're going to talk about that 11 a.m. on Sunday. So come join me right here on Instagram Live, 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we will talk all about that. So please come in, engage in the content. It'll be a lot of fun. So thank you guys for hanging out with me here today. I will be back again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then for day 86 at 5 p.m. tomorrow. So until then, I'll see you then. Bye, guys.